anytime you have like a group or community built around a common interest, right? All these other dividing factors about us go away.
Hello, my name is Alessio, and welcome to the Mythic Picnic podcast. It's getting really cold here in Scotland, so I hope you're all keeping warm. Some news about midges. We almost have our budget ready, which will go together with the rest of our package. The only thing that would then be missing is attached cast, which we don't have any of yet. We know who we'd love to have on board, but we haven't formally reached out to them yet. So I feel before Christmas we will have a kind of inkling if there is interest in the direction we're going. If not, it will be who else can we reach out to next year. Also next year I have a short film that was in the running for funding 2 times and made it through numerous rounds, but then ultimately wasn't selected. I almost gave up on the idea. I even thought about, hey, I could do my first comic book with this story, but the idea was just itching at me, and I really don't want to give it up. I think it's such a fun idea. I think we're going to try and go for it after New Year. I spoke to my DOP and some other team members, and they all are on board for doing it on the low to no budget. Hopefully we do have a budget, but we almost made it twice. Let's just do it. If you are listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube, please reach out, leave a comment, and a like, a share. All of that goes a long way. I'd love to hear from you as well. If there's anything you'd like me to talk more about or any guests you'd like me to reach out to. Obviously, people from older episodes of Mama Ho Ho, whenever we're in the same town, we definitely will sit down and talk. But yeah, the year is almost over. I've spent the last few months working on midges and a couple of other projects. I just want to have something ready for the opportunity that hopefully comes up next year, and time goes by so fast. I just want to be ready, and I want to have options. You know, I want to make midges. I want to make these other projects I have, but I want to be smart in like the scalability of each project, so I can do the lowest budget project with the understanding that that's going to be the one that's easier to get off the ground first and will help with the larger project later on. Although if midges is all go by the end of this year, then happy days, we're making it. But I just want to be smart, which is hard. Anyway, today's guest is Matt Davis. Matt is a stand-up comedian who is constantly traveling. I first met him when I was living in Shanghai and he was touring. Matt is a very, very smart and funny guy. If you've ever seen his sets, he has a lot of clips on his YouTube channel, which you can go check out. He's one of those friends that I love bouncing ideas off of because he's so receptive and can put up with me constantly message him, hey, what about this? What about this? Last year, I ran into Matt 3 times in 3 different cities, and in the last city that we met is Hong Kong. He was touring and I was there for work. So we grabbed a coffee and did a podcast where we just walked around Hong Kong and caught up and talked about, what motivates us, the challenges of being freelance and wearing multiple hats. So sit back and relax and enjoy me and Matt having a nice chat as we walk through Hong Kong.
A good few years ago, it was a winter in Hong Kong, and we were doing pretty much the same thing. Do you remember? Apart from recording, we were both staying in Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah,
randomly.
you were here for Art Basel. You were working for Sennheiser.
Yes. Well, that was a long time ago.
Really good memory.
That was a long time ago.
I have a good memory with like places and why I was there and who else and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, we were. You were here for Art Basel. I was doing shows or something, and then hanging out at Mogby's place. And I think that's when that may have been the same trip that like he and I got like tear gassed and stuff.
What happened?
We got tear gassed because of like the protests going on.
No, so that must have been. Was it the umbrella protest?
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, but maybe it was different. Different trips. I feel like that was the same trip, but
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more peaceful when I was done. But how did you become such a constantly traveling comedian? Like, did you just kind of, is it something you always wanted to do, or you just kind of find your way?
yeah, well, like I did that, more North America focused for a long time, and maybe 15 years or more, and then did a little bit of international stuff. And it was honestly after I did like Shanghai and Beijing and all that the first time with Andy and Turner and those guys where we met. Was after like the first one of those. And I'd done some other stuff like in the Middle East at that point. And I wanted to do like a year of it. Like how many places could I do in a year was the idea. And I talked to some guys that had done a bunch of international stuff, and you know, they all were very focused on these gigs that were booked out of the UK, where you basically go and you perform for people from the UK who are living in those places. And I wasn't interested in that. I wanted to do like local audience as much as possible. And started trying to put it together and talk to a bunch of those guys who were like, man, I don't think there's a year's worth out there. And I was like, I disagree. I think there is. Like, you know, from looking into it. I approached my management with it at the time. They weren't interested. We kind of like unceremoniously parted ways because of it, I think. And then I booked guys carrying blueprints. You guys making changes. Got big changes coming up. We got blueprints everywhere. No, I booked like a month and a half of stuff, and I was just still trying to lock things down, and I just kind of said fuck it and left. And so I left with like a month and a half booked, and then just kept adding to it. And I don't know. I got like maybe.
But you're doing that yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's like
a lot.
That's a lot of work.
And then kept adding to it, and then started getting introduced to more and more people. There were a lot of guys back then that had like a local scene type thing they were working, but not much beyond that. Nobody coming in, that kind of thing. And so some of those dudes that like helped, you know, break down like how you bring an act in and how you like, you know, oh, we can take your free open mic and I'm gonna show you how we can sell tickets to a show and how you promote a show. You know, I did a little bit of that with different people. And it just kind of like built. And now the times have kind of caught up with me. Like I was doing that, there wasn't anyone really doing that. Now there are more local scenes that are a little bit more mature, you know, a decade later. And there are pros and cons there.
So how have you seen the, since we're in Hong Kong, how have you seen the China scenes change since you've like first visited, which is how we met?
I know, but it's
Shanghai?
like, it's like so different. Like, and I haven't been back, you know, I mean, I saw the evolution there from when it was like truly nascent, right? Like Andy and Turner were they were doing stuff in English and in Mandarin, right? Like show wise. But there weren't like comedians in Mandarin. Like if there were, they were open micers, you know, they were doing those. And now there's an entire world of it, of course. It's massive. You have guys that are theater acts, you know, all the way down, an entire ecosystem of it. It didn't exist then. And now that exists, which is interesting. But I hadn't been back to the club in 2016, 17. I don't know the last time I was in Shanghai. It was when they were still there. So
It was before Andy had the actual club?
Ooh.
No? After?
It was after. Because they had the club the time I spent a month there. I spent December in Shanghai just doing shows every night and hanging out. Because I got stuck in South Africa because the election in Tanzania caused the people who were backing the shows to flee the country. And that was the money gig that was setting up the shows in Harare, Zimbabwe. Like, they weren't going to be profitable. Tanzania was going to allow me to do. So all that fell out all at once. And I was just messaging around trying to figure out whether I should just stay in South Africa or should I head somewhere else. And Andy and the guys were like, you just come to Shanghai, we'll figure it out. And I just booked a flight to Shanghai and just went to Shanghai.
How was the...
Hung out there for like a month.
How was the... and that's how we met. How was the restrictions or kind of rules around performing? Do you remember then?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I remember like, you know, the first round of it, it was just, you know, don't say these three things. But then that's the year that like the CCP like shut us down, you know?
Right.
Like,
Anyway.
yeah.
They did it anyway.
And then they moved the shows, all that kind of stuff. And then we had like a big list of things you couldn't talk about. Then subsequent times, it kind of eased up a bit. It was all still there. None of it really changed. Now, and I've talked to the guys that have the club now that want me to come there, and now it's a matter of like submitting, the script of your show, and then that gets approved by the culture,
and it has to be,
and you have to follow it by topic, basically. Like the outline you give is what you have to follow.
Crowd work.
They're kind of yes or no. They're kind of fine with it, but they just don't want you to veer too far off of what you're approved to do, kind of thing. There's a lot more control to it, and then you're allowed to play around inside the box a bit, right? It's not like true script. You do have some wiggle room, but it is very much like, don't send us this thing and then go up there and do a different show. That won't fly.
Have you ever?
So like Taiwan was not as restrictive. Taiwan wanted just a bunch of proof,
So Taiwan still wants to approve as well?
They just approve the work end of it. And then that's kind of like here, like Hong Kong, I have the same thing. I have a, work visa. And to approve that, they just want to make sure that you're, getting that because you're a legit, performing artist, not because you're someone who's just saying that to come, So they want, kind of your resume, your CV, your background, normal work visa stuff, and then I'll go, here's a bunch of show posters from over the years. Here are links to articles about me and reviews, etc. They want to see all that.
Oh.
And so once you send them all that kind of material, then the local sponsor can get you approved.
Have you ever performed anywhere else that's been restrictive like that? Like I heard in your act, there was one that was it you? There was one that you just couldn't perform at?
Well, yeah, so, and I haven't gone there, I'm tempted not to say it, but I tried to go back in the day to Dhaka, Bangladesh. And to go to Dhaka, big, I had to do like a massive approval to get there. Like the visa process was very involved. And I had, at the time, maybe like 3 hours worth of YouTube videos of just like stand-up clips from over the years. And the dude calls me, he's like, yo, you have to nuke your YouTube because they went through this and you've got some stuff on there that they're like, absolutely not. And so we have to refile and you just send me a different clip altogether. But like, they're gonna look you up. So if they find any of this kind of stuff, you can't have it. And the bit that was the problem that they found was me on stage in Alabama, where I'm from and where I started, before like same-sex marriage was legal in the US. And it's me doing a pro same-sex marriage bit, and I'm making fun of like homophobic people in the bit, right? And that was what they had an issue with. And I was like, all right, weird, I get it, different places, different whatever. But then I look it up and it's like punishable by death to be gay in Bangladesh.
Fuck.
Like you get arrested if someone accuses you of it. And I was like, maybe we should just pump the brakes on, I still tried to go, but whatever, I'm an idiot. And I may still go, just because I've never been to Bangladesh. And there's a guy there that's like, yep, come on. Right?
This is part of your goal is to perform in every single country?
That's like a loose way to put it. I think arbitrarily I'd like to cross 100 that I performed in,
What are you at now?
I'm around 70 now. I've been to a few more than I performed in, trying to make things happen. It didn't work. But like, I'd like to get around just across 100 arbitrarily just for myself. Every country in the world becomes like a political question on what doesn't count, right? I'd like to do as much as I can. I think it's honestly, like, if I'm somewhere and I've never been there before, and culturally it's a little bit different, and there are things I've never seen, points of view I've never heard, especially from like the local artists, whether it be comedians or musicians or, some storytellers I've met and spoken word, like poetry, acts and stuff. Points of view I've never considered and thought of. Like, that's what's interesting to me because it's challenging for me. And
challenging for you to perform to like a variety of opinions and perspectives.
Yeah, and I want to be able to, when I'm writing and I'm working on stuff, I want to be able to understand it so that I can take it into account. I may never bring it up, but I want to take it into account when I'm working on something as like the counterpoint to whatever I'm saying. And do I still agree with what I said after I've considered these counterpoints or not? So that, and I want to be able to do it in a way where if I'm in Kazakhstan and I have an audience that speaks English in Kazakhstan, they at least understand me. They can disagree, but I want them I want it to be clear that I understand where we may disagree, but I want to be able to laugh at and find funny what I am talking about and why I'm talking about it. And I don't want to have to like edit myself so that I'm doing a different show in Kazakhstan than I'm doing in Macedonia, or that I'm doing in Mexico City, or that I'm doing in Toronto. I want to be doing the same show in all these places.
So what's the core of, where does the core of this ambition come from? Is it like you got to a certain number, you wanted to keep going, or you want to be known for the person that's done all of these countries, or it's more of a like spiritual ambition, like this experience?
Yeah, no, so like it started, the original like project into what I was doing the first time, and the way I was pitching it to people was like, anytime you have like a group or community built around a common interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these other dividing factors about us go away, right? So like the world's greatest boat builder, like if you love building boats and the world's greatest boat builder is some old man in the mountains of Afghanistan for some reason, right? It doesn't matter how you were raised. You will look up to that dude for his ability to build boats,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so similarly, like with doing stand-up and then performing in general on a wider end, right? And then writing as part of that as well. The moment that becomes why you're talking to people, then I can go to South Africa, and I have friends in South Africa now, you know what I mean, that have very wildly different backgrounds. And then the same with, you know, buddies in Malaysia or in India or in Pakistan, right? And like, I put those people in touch as well. Here's a guy from Pakistan, here's a guy from India. Supposedly they don't get along. When we talk about this, they do.
Mm-hmm.
They do get along. It's because this other stuff that's made up that we built our worlds around is a little bit bullshit. And you actually deal with the things we're interested in, like truly passionate about, all that shit falls away.
Right.
Right. So that kind of led, after the first like couple of years of traveling, doing those shows, it led to the Bad Familiar show, which I did in Edinburgh a couple of years ago, pre-COVID stuff. And then that one was very much about how like we instinctively like what's familiar to us. It's comfortable, it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we have a familiar thing, then we get to this very dangerous place where we start equating it with good just because we know it. So we know that that's good. So it was a Starbucks we passed, I think, you know, and you walk into Starbucks because you know it, it's simple, you don't have to think,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then eventually we equate that comfortness with as a value judgment. This is a good thing. And then once we decide that that's what a good thing is, then we start to protect the good thing,
Mm-hmm.
which means you start boxing out the things that are different. And then it's a very slippery slope to like dangerous thinking from there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would extend that now and say like that's kind of like the first of it. And then when you start getting into like any kind of creative output, there's a point where you can examine your own writing and you can catch yourself doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a very natural thing to do. Even as you expand like your familiar for yourself, it becomes a bigger and bigger net. You still kind of shape those little things that you protect for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the ability to go through and examine that and like remove that from your work as best as you can. And just to never be locked to it, to like building your own conservatism and then just locking to that. And that's kind of like what I'm working towards now, is more of that. But like working with like artists other places, like I'm in workshops, like in Mongolia, we sat into the whole workshop about subtext and everything else, like editing your comedy for that purpose. So I'm really interested in that as like a continual thing. Because I think as you age, as you grow, as you get more experiences, like that behavior doesn't change, it just kind of widens. And you can easily get to a place where you just kind of like lock down and go, no, this is the way it should be.
Going to like simpler beginnings, like what got you into comedy in the first place?
Oh man,
And
like, hey, go ahead.
And is this the route that you originally saw? Like, what was your like?
God, no. Like, definitely not the route I originally saw. Like, originally, I was 17, so like my answer is ignorance and arrogance. You know, it's the magical combo.
Yeah.
You know, just all the way in, and like it was a
Ignorance protects you to some degree.
And then the more that I traveled, then like I did a bunch of the big North American festival stuff, and I was dirtier back then. Like I had to be clean when I started. And then like once I didn't have to be anymore, I just went as dark.
So from 17, you were just,
I had to be clean.
but this is what you were like all in?
I was probably all in by like 19.
Wow.
So 17, I was in college. And then somewhere after that, I started a company with a buddy. And then like I was doing like college company with my buddy and then doing stand-up at night. I was a house MC at the club in Birmingham. And then somewhere in there, like I ditched college. I did some road gigs. And then I was like, they went well. And I was like, I want to do this like for real, I think. And then sold out of the company, dropped out of college. And then back then, this is, late 90s type stuff. I mean, I was booked 30 weeks like this.
Yeah.
Just here's 30 weeks of work, right? You can't even do that now. But back then you could.
All right.
And it wasn't great work, but it was work.
Yeah.
And then from that point forward, very much just all in. But always trying to like figure it out,
But it's such a young age, getting to be all in, getting to like be, it sounds like full time is like hard to compare to like, again, like want to be a filmmaker. It's just, there's a lot of steps you have to figure out and you got to build up towards something. But like, I mean, if you're good on stage, like you get the chance to be booked constantly, then that you're just in it.
You got along with people well, like the social skill aspects to it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, like inside of the first decade, I would say there's also like me drinking too much, treating every day like it's spring break 7 days a week, because you go to a town and like you don't process it, but like you go there on a Tuesday, everybody's hanging out and drinking. You go to the next town on Wednesday, everybody's hanging out and drinking. And in your mind, you paint this picture of the world that there's just people who drink every night. And it's like, no, Tuesday was the night that they go out and drink. And then the other town, Wednesday was the night that they go out and drink. I'm the only one doing it every day. So, you kind of end up an alcoholic.
From like being a teenager all the way through to like, when did you?
I mean, yeah, like 19, 20. By the time I was 21, I was already like I remember going into a bar for my 21st birthday and the entire staff of the bar was horrified to learn it was my 21st birthday because I've been drinking there for 3 years. Right? And they were just like, what? But there's a lot of that, man. And then I sobered up. And then about the time I sobered up is when I kind of like...
How old were you then?
30s.
All right.
I sobered up and like that shifted my...
That feels natural. Like 30s start
my...
winding down. If you keep going in your 30s, that's when I think...
There's a big decision you have to make, and if you continue at that point,
yeah,
you're really committing to something that's much bigger than you realize.
So I mean, we always talk about work and we always talk about plans and like we always talk about not so much the future, but just like try and get from A to B. But like how like my observation of you, you're constantly on the move, you're constantly planning. Like, do you get much downtime? Do you like downtime?
I don't get downtime. I don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Like, I really don't. But
you must have had a lot during COVID then, so it was kind of forcing you.
Yes, it's a terrible time. and I filled it.
Did you ever do any live shows, like online shows?
No, I was offered a ton, and I would agree to them, and then I'd change my mind and be like, I hate the idea. I hate the entire idea of this. For me, there's something about live in the room is what matters.
Yeah.
And I even feel that way when you talk about like filming a special and whatever. It's a very different thing. You're like turning a live show into something else, which I think is fundamentally what a lot of them get wrong. And it's not that the show isn't good and the comedian's not good or the material's not good. It's just the presentation of it is incorrect. And there's a lot of like comedy specials that have come out that maybe people have watched and you go like, I mean, it's all right. Or like, I've seen the dude live and I'm like, no, that person's amazing. They're awesome. This presentation of who they are and what they do was incorrect.
It was sad.
If it were shot a different way, like it would have come across better.
Like the way it's shot, or the venue it's shot, or
every factor,
everything.
Venue, the way it's shot. I mean, there was an HBO special of David Tell. David Tell, who I have every ounce of respect for. He was a dude that was super great to me when I was, younger and starting out. cannot find a negative word to say about the man, on top of the fact that he is one of like the best ever at writing a joke. Like bar none, the end, no comparison.
He's like every comedian's favorite, right?
Yeah, as you should be.
Yeah.
And it was a very well-deserved like accolade than when people like bring him up. But he had an HBO special, and I disagreed with the way it was shot, because they've got like a jib cam and
Which
a
one
big
was this?
thing. I can't remember the name of the special, but it was 10, 12 years ago.
All right, okay.
And it's like, it's big theater, and it's just, you know, they've got him in a sport coat or something, and there were creative decisions you can see that someone was involved in, right? And then like the big sweeping, like it looked like they were trying to film Chris Rock and Dave Attell showed up. And he's crushing, because he's performing, he's crushing. But it doesn't come across right. And then his subsequent specials have been much better, and I honestly think he's taken more control there. Or he's working with people that get him better.
Well, it sounds like the one that was after that was really good. The one where he handed out camcorders to everyone.
And that was
in the
all him.
audience.
That was him where he just said, fuck it, and was like, I'm doing it this way.
He's handed all these little cameras out to everybody in the audience, and then he just cut between all of those, and it's just the room's small, the energy's like right up.
Yeah,
I
and you
think that
really
suits him a lot.
he comes across more like what you would see live there,
Yeah.
right? And Stanhope is, like Doug Stanhope is somebody who's been very, very good at it. He's released several things at different points in his career, and he's kind of like very early on, like really nailed, like, no, this is who I am, this is how I should be presented. Like, don't present me like this. Like, he learned those lessons, you know, with Comedy Central Presents and things like that. And he was like, no, that's not what I am. Shoot me in a basement, you know, with a chain link fence. Cameras are low. They're like basically like, you know, some of the camera angles in that special, it's like a person in the seat looking at him. And that's exactly how you should shoot him, right? Chris Rock, back in the day, 30-foot stage, he's going to walk it, big sweeping camera thing, all that makes sense. But I feel like people,
Aziz Ansari, sorry, go ahead. Aziz,
I'm sorry.
Ansari, he had Spike Jonze shoot his last special, and it was like very particular. I don't know if it helped the comedy much, but it kind of stood out the way, like he was in comedy, but there was a guy with Steadicam just like this the whole time.
But there's like, it's not that it would necessarily hurt or detract from the material itself, but like the person doesn't come across.
So if you made, like, apart from clips, like, would you say you put out a special?
I've never put out a special.
So how would you like to put your special out?
I want to do 3.
3?
I want to do 3 intentionally, like together, that belong together. I don't want to do them in different parts of the world, in different sets of material. But as far as filming, like I was supposed to film, like COVID interrupted, we were going to film in Sarajevo. Like that was like a worked out thing, and it just kind of went away. Before that, I was going to film in Pakistan. We talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
And then that got messed up on the Pakistani side. And then you had a child, so you're like, I don't want to go to prison or something, whatever. But no, I still want to do something like that, film in one of those spots. But, you know, smaller, black box theater type space.
And we were talking about, you want to do one that's just like storytelling?
Yeah, the storytelling one I want to do in the round. And then I want to
Where do you want to do that one?
I don't know yet. I have to find the
Somewhere
place
safer.
that'll let me. I have to find the place that'll let me do 6 nights in the round, perfect little setting.
So what's are you just like living in the moment, or living like month by month, or like do you have like a goal you're trying to get to?
Oh, I have goals. I'm just not like necessarily loud with them, you know?
Right.
There are like, there are all the incremental problems of like the right now and the next month and the next month that you have to focus on, but it's not arbitrary. Like I am trying to get past these little humps towards something. And we'll see if I get there.
Would you rather, like, are you so like, you enjoy, or it's a necessity to be in control, or would you like the additional support to like manage? Because you're just constantly on the road. Your memberships at the hotels and your like miles must be like,
Oh, yeah.
Are you living for free at this point?
I get called Mr. Davis a lot. It's very funny. And not because of the beard.
Yeah, when you go to Marriott, do they like, oh shit, this guy's Right.
You know, when I check into a Marriott, first off, when I walk in, like their first look is of concern.
Get out.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of that look. And then they pull up the reservation and you can watch corporate training kick in and like the spine straightens. Mr. David, you know, yeah, it's very funny. But the, it's a necessity thing, not a control thing for me. And so like where I've been very controlling on stuff and not let go is places that I've tried to, and then it fall apart, and then I end up having to do it anyway. So I just end up doing it. And it's a money thing.
Right.
Like nobody likes to say that. But that's what it comes down to.
Right.
You know, to hire the right kind of person that can take that over and follow through. That's not a cheap person. Right. That skill set is an expensive and valuable skill set.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would. Yeah, if anybody wants to just like send me like $400,000, we'll turn this up to 11. You know.
I mean, I think that's how like I know a bit of everything in my work, because it's from necessity, from like not having the budget, and the ambition is to like not have to do everything, but it's still there to as a like an emergency parachute. Like I'll do it just to make something come to fruition. But this getting to a point where you have the support is such a luxury.
Like, you know, even during COVID, I made like this silly animation thing, and I got it like.
Yeah, you went to festivals.
And I got it into festivals. I'd never animated anything before. Like I learned that like during COVID, and then got into festivals. And like my big takeaway every time somebody's asked me about it was like, I now understand why 47 people work on a 9-minute animation, because that was a nightmare of effort that I did to put that out there. Right.
Yeah. The Simpsons is made in Korea.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's dude, like just from like the animation and to doing the voices, to building the voice profiles, to build, and then
The music.
the music on it as well. Yeah, it's too much. But I wouldn't approach it that way again. That was very much a COVID, like, what are we going to do with ourselves moment.
How was it taken to festivals? Like,
I was surreal. It was nuts.
yeah.
Yeah, especially because I'm there with like, you know, we're showing it in like the next block, you know what I mean, is like someone's documentary in Syria. And it's like, well, I apologize for my talking unicorn and butt plug animation showing right before your war story, but my bad. Ah, it's great. I want to do more like animation type stuff.
Yeah.
I want to do that combination with a special as well.
Yeah, because
But like more surreal animation type stuff with the comedy material. Not like act out animation.
Do you want to talk about your experience at Edinburgh?
Which one?
How was you just finished the Edinburgh Festival?
It's exhausting. I don't want to get into details. There's still a debrief to do,
Right.
so I don't want to get into too much. But it was a lot, and I did end up in an ambulance.
And how many shows a day were you doing?
So I had like 2 separate hours of mine. So I was doing my hour stand up, and then my storytelling hour in reverse order, and then I would do a showcase on a show of 5 headliners. So I just do 10. That was right after my stand up hour. Then from that one, I would go down the street, and I was doing an improv format show that I wrote that was absolute insanity, right? And we kind of like tweaked it over the course of the run. But now I think there's a real like show there. Like we figured out the kinks and worked it out. And that show is basically, it's called With Your Guest, and I am the guest. And then the audience and I figure out who I am, just like the beginnings of who I am. And then I'm going to go on 3 different talk shows, and I have guest comedians that are hosting those talk shows. And then I go on the talk show, but the audience also figures out what the shows are. So we do the first one, and then like from the show, the story of my character evolves. And then we stop that interview. I go back out front, and we recap it, and we figure out what the next show is going to be, and we start that one. But the first show doesn't stop. It just moves down to a smaller desk, and now it's 2 shows at once. So like I might be on like a serious news show and then like a children's morning show at the same time as my character story is evolving. And then we do it a 3rd time. And on the 3rd one, the audience gets to like give characteristics to the host, right? So like one of those, an example, what I mean is one of those was a fishing show, but then the host was a conspiracy theorist who thought that they were a fish. right? So like that was what the host role. So, and this is just to some comedian. They have no. They're just in the back hearing it for the first time as I'm telling them.
All right,
And
so
they have to come up and improvise.
All right, okay.
Like, welcome back to my show. That was just made up 4 seconds ago.
Nice.
Right. So like as the show goes on, the audience is messing with them, which in turn makes them mess with me. So they keep adding crazier things onto my character. And then at the end of it, the end of the third interview, when there's all 3 happening at once, I basically come back out and we tie up the story of my character, you know, as what has happened since going through all of those shows. And we got it like working like the last week of Edinburgh, like really, really working, where it didn't get too derailed.
And for
too,
those
like,
that don't know,
chaotic.
Edinburgh Festival is like how long?
25 days.
And you're just fucking like multiple shows a night. What's the?
Sometimes I would also do the 11 o'clock show, and then sometimes I would also host a midnight 12:30 cabaret show. And I would do shows in the middle of my 1:30 storyteller and my 6:10 solo. I would do like a 3:40 improv show that was somebody else's like format game show type thing, and I would do that for an hour.
What's like?
a lot.
What's the what's the emotion? What's the drive? Like when you're that all in on a date. You're so busy. You just like every time you go on stage, is it just like everything's worth it, or does it all feel like a job? Or...
No, it's not that it's all a job, but like with the format show, it was very much like tweaking it every night.
So you're taking the advantage of the festival
And the fact that I can
to
have
do it
all
every
these,
night?
the fact that I can have all of these people on.
Right. Okay.
So like some of the guests we were getting on are guys that won, you know, for their solo shows, won awards, everything else, right? So, but they would come on and break the format.
Right.
And then like, so they were showing me all the different ways the format could be broken.
Right.
And I'm also having the advantage of having other performers I know come in and sit in the back and watch it, and then them give me feedback on it.
Right.
And other ones play it and give me feedback on it. And I got like, within the first week and a half, like the level of feedback I was getting would have taken me a year.
Right. So it becomes like such an invaluable place to figure out something, or just like to test things.
Yeah. As long as you're actively trying to tweak it, then yeah.
I saw you once. You just like went from left to right.
Oh, man. And then like the storyteller show was also one where like I had to change it because the venue was weird. And then I started doing it in the round, and then I turned it into like the choosing 2 story format. Once I had it in the round, and then now I'm like, I want to do this in the round. And I want to do this as like a choose your own adventure between sober stories and drunken fucked up stories. And like that, I got that to really, really work. And so over the course of 25 shows of it, by the end, it's like, oh, this is how to do this show. This is how to use these stories that would maybe get dropped here and there randomly in a stand-up set. They don't really belong as part of that set.
So once you've like finished the festival, you've got to a point where you've really figured something out. Then you want to take that and do it like on the road.
Yeah, so I want to tour it a little bit, but I also want to find the right place to film, right? And then the hour, like the actual comedy hour that I'm doing now, I'm still playing with. It may come back under a different name next year. I'm still moving some things around on that, but we'll see.
All right, man. Well, it's weird to sign off these things, but
This is what you do.
It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet It's nice to meet you again.
I've
after
ran into
20 years.
ran into you 3 times this year, right?
Yeah, Glasgow,
Edinburgh,
and
and
Hong
here.
Kong?
Yeah. So that's a good mix after not seeing you for a good few years. Actually, being here for this, let's start walking down. Being here in this trip, I get to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time, and you know, it feels like the side effects of COVID are kind of wearing off, and hopefully there's a lot more of it to come.
Yeah.
How's it feel being back in Hong Kong?
I mean, it's good. I wish I could I may come back through before I head to Europe. I don't know.
If you had to settle down in one city, where would it be?
I don't know. Am I still performing, or have I lost my voice at this point?
You're running a small restaurant? No.
I'm running a small restaurant.
No, you're still All right, so you're still performing. You want like
You want somewhere that you can do that.
a good audience that changes
Yeah.
very frequently. Got
So
good scene.
it becomes limited very quickly, right?
Yeah.
You have New York, you have London, you have Toronto. You have Toronto. I would like over those three probably. For me, I just like Toronto. But I like Vienna as a city. I like Rotterdam as a city as well.
I feel like
I mean, I like Cape Town, South Africa, but I'm a lunatic. So maybe
having
not the best advice for anybody else, but
having lived in Shanghai for like 10 years, having, I also love, I've never lived in Hong Kong, but I always enjoy being here. I lived in New Zealand for a year. Now I'm back in the UK, but you don't want to pick one place, even though I am currently in one place. You want to kind of keep, I feel like I want to keep my options open. I always have that kind of itchy feet kind of syndrome. The grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing.
well, there's like a stagnation thing for me, like mentally. Like if I'm in a place too long, I just start going like, all right, it's time to move. But I like chaos, so I like Hong Kong, Shanghai.
Man, this guy's got his trunk open. He's got boxes hanging out.
He's doing great.
It's just, yeah. I don't think there's many places I've been to that are like Hong Kong. Like it's got its own kind of brand of chaos. But also it seems like a hard place to live for, like once you get a certain age. It seems brutal.
That's every big city though.
Yeah.
Like even in New York, you see it in New York. This is somebody who's like older in New York, and you're like, good for you. But this seems like it would be tough.
All right. We'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, man.
Good to see you.
Into the 7-Eleven.
And all right. There you go.
Thank you for walking me to 7-Eleven.
All right. We'll see you later.